we're reading books like The Greatest Salesman in the World and Psycho-Cybernetics and Think and Grow Rich, and just these books that really showed me that there's a whole world of like self-education and self-development that I had never experienced outside of like this church that I had grown up in. And so being around people where every day the whole goal was to reach your goal, the whole goal was to become better, and you could have a very real result every single day from your like self-development that previous day, and you could see the results so fast from just how that next door responded. And so I think having those really fast wins and the ability to see the results of your efforts, I just love that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everybody, this is Sam Taggart with the D2D podcast. And a couple announcements before we bring on our guest is we got Door-to-Door coming up around the corner with Jordan Peterson, Tom Billio, David Meltzer, and about 30 to 40 other amazing workshop speakers and guys that are making millions plus in this industry, sharing their knowledge. And it's just interesting, like, to see all the people who have come over the years. Even our guest himself, he's been to Door-to-Door Con, and it's just like having this unified area where you can share wins, celebrate golden door winners, meet and greet, and just like network amongst some of the greatest out there. And so I'd highly recommend getting tickets before they go up. Pricing goes up here shortly, and there's group discounts. And so if you haven't got your tickets, you haven't told your team about it, like, make sure to spread the word. We want to have close to 3,000 people there. We have a concert Better Than Ezra, and Sugar Ray Hart and Tonic all created they created like a band. And so we've got Sugar Ray singing "Every Morning There's a Halo." What I'm saying? Like, it's gonna be sick. So make sure to come. And then I'm gonna announce our guest today. We got Jacob Johnson, who is a former door-to-door sales rep. He started in solar in 2014, was one of the top producers in his company. He's been at ES Solar, Ion, Zoetic, a couple different solar companies. He's been in it longer than I have, and ran teams here in Utah, doing over 300 a month, just slaying it. Best month was 15 personal sales, self-gen. And, it's just like getting guys that have, one, knocked doors, been in the trenches, but now has moved into VP of sales over at a company called Paykeeper, where these guys automate escrow. And for some of you guys are like, what the heck does that mean? He'll get into like the details of how that works, but basically they help create an easier financial bridge for contractors and homeowners and companies to make sure that they're not having to front and wait super long to get money, and they end the slow pay. Obviously some of these, like, I even think of like the hurricane people out in Florida right now. it's like signing these contracts and it might be a year before roof gets built and bought. And this is a great solution for that. So if you haven't checked out paykeeper.com, go check out Paykeeper. If you're a contractor or you're a solar, dealer, and you're trying to front load some commissions or front load some of the elements of this job and protect homeowners and protect your subs, this is a very important tool. So Jacob, welcome to the show, man. And tell us a little bit about you. Like, what do you like? Why door-to-door? First, I guess, let me ask this. Why door-to-door sales? Why'd you get into door-to-door sales back in 2014?
Man, I was actually an engineering student. I was doing chemical engineering, and my whole goal was to have a renewable energy company. And so coming off of a mission where door-to-door in South America and Ecuador was what I fell in love with, right? Just working with people all day, every day. Come back, I get into engineering, and then I've got an older brother who had been in door-to-door for a few years in security. So he was with Apex, which then became Vivint. And so he had a lot of experience in the industry, and had a buddy telling him to come to Arizona. We've got this new thing, it's called solar. and, bring some setters. And so I had just come home from my mission, and my brother convinced me to come set for him, basically. And so that's how I got into solar back in 2014 as a setter.
Love that. And then what were some of your like favorite parts of door to door? Like what made it a win for you, and why, like, what'd you like about it?
I had a really, really awesome manager that first summer. His name is Skylar Christensen, and he really exposed me to a ton of thinking, right? Where we're reading books like The Greatest Salesman in the World and Psycho-Cybernetics and Think and Grow Rich, and just these books that really showed me that there's a whole world of like self-education and self-development that I had never experienced outside of like this church that I had grown up in. And so being around people where every day the whole goal was to reach your goal, the whole goal was to become better, and you could have a very real result every single day from your like self-development that previous day, and you could see the results so fast from just how that next door responded. And so I think having those really fast wins and the ability to see the results of your efforts, I just loved that.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that a lot of people don't realize in door-to-door sales is not everybody's meant to do it forever, right? Like you did 8 years of door-to-door or 7 years or whatever. And it's like, it made good money. You had months where you had $60,000 commissions. Like that's not talking earlier, it's like not every person at a normal job has that. And, the problem is though, is switching into normal 9-to-5 jobs is always a hard transition. And, either life circumstance or, things happen where it's like, okay, I think I'm ready for that. And for you, like, kind of give us a little backstory on like what made the transition into Paykeeper and what that looked like, and maybe why were some of those reasons?
Yeah. So I used to be married. I actually have a couple kids myself. I've got a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old boy. And, the year of COVID, 2020, I think it was hard on a lot of relationships, but it was hard on mine. My marriage came to an end, and, I went from where I could be out working all night, closing deals from 6 to 9 p.m. because I had the family support, right, to be able to go do that. I went from that to being a single father where I didn't have that support, or there were a ton of days where it was just me and the kids. And so I wasn't able to close deals at night when people were home from their day jobs. And so, my kids are in daycare, and I found a great place here in Utah that I trust and takes care of them. And what that led to is I found my work hours being between 9 and 5, those typical hours. And I always rejected the idea of a 9-to-5, right? For almost a decade, I didn't want to do that. But I was really good friends with the owner of Paykeeper, the guy who founded it. His name's Kelly Curtis, and he had this genius idea for what it is, this escrow software, automated escrow for contractors. And he hit me up and just pitched the idea to me to see what I thought about it. And I was like, wow, that could be huge. That could be $1 billion company. You could affect every vertical of contracting and home improvement, and making it a win for the homeowner and the contractor. So I was like, wow, that's huge. And he's like, I'm looking for someone to run sales, to do the sales for it. And we just had a conversation around that. And what I saw was, wow, I could be working with business owners in business hours, which are the same as daycare hours for the most part, right? And so I said, it just felt right. It felt like a natural progression for me to move from B to C to B to B, and the timing with my life circumstances, it just worked out. It just felt meant to be, and that's why I jumped right into it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people struggle with that transition. So, were there times where you're just like, man, my income's not the same, or, the flexibility, the 2 weeks on or the 2 weeks off kind of vacation thing, or like, I mean, I guess like, when we're in door to door and we're getting our face kicked in, it's like, dude, I just need to go get another job. Like, and then there's times where you're like, when you're in the other job 9 to 5, you're like, oh my, this is so hard, or this is, you know what I mean? I feel like there's pros and cons. So I guess like walk me through maybe some of those struggles in that transition, and or even still that you've noticed that you maybe weren't aware of or wouldn't think would have been a struggle of that transition, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest struggles of the transition is just like feeling like you have to be somewhere, right? And door to door, you can set your hours, and like you're very strict with yourself. Like, these are my hours that I'm knocking, or these are the hours I'm taking appointments. But you still know that it's you setting that schedule for yourself, right? When you are W-2 employed and you're committing to a company, it's like, well, hey man, like we're paying you for these hours, like we need you to be there. And I think Paykeeper does an awesome job of being flexible and knowing I'm a single dad still. So, but there is a struggle, right? Because especially with kids or raising a family, like every morning can be a little bit different, or the kids require a little more time. So, and as far as pay goes too, like when you're commission only, obviously you can bring in a lot of cash really fast. And with something like Paykeeper, it's more of a long haul progression for what I'm building. And so I definitely did have to be in a place financially where I wasn't stressed about needing that next commission check, to where I could see a vision and see something more long-term and build towards that. I would say going from the door-to-door knocking to B2B, you don't want to do it from a place of like desperation or needing money because it's not going to come as fast, right? I think you have to have the idea that you're going to be building something long-term and be okay with that. And I was in that position, and I'm okay with it. And that's why I'm here. But yeah, it's I think it can be a struggle. Sometimes I'm like, man, I should go throw in a few solar deals, and I have a couple times, but it's like I think just having that long-term vision is what helps me, of like, this is why I'm doing this now. Because I've always seen myself not just as doing door to door forever, like you said. It's not for everyone forever. And I want to get more into working with business owners, and then eventually having my own business. And so this felt like the perfect next step for me.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people are afraid to make that jump. Like, there's no shame in it. I think sometimes you get thrown out of the tribe, it's like, you're not one of us anymore. And it's like, it's like, what do you mean? Like, and I think that talking about that is important. And I think that, people, I'm hiring right now, and they're W-2 with commission, and it's really difficult to recruit people out of the door-to-door space because they're like, well, unless I'm making 300,000, and I'm like, go into the open market and go find salary for $300,000, dude. Like, good luck. And they're gonna laugh at you. You set up 100 interviews and you'll get laughed at 100 times. And
yeah, especially in solar, you're a little pampered, right, with what you can make. And it's like, cool, then go make it. It's like, oh, I'm tired of knocking doors. It's like, then know where you're at.
Know where you're at. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, people, I've had this like problem. It's like, trying to help people understand. I'm like, then stay. If you're stuck on that, like, great, but you can make money in corporate America. It's just, you've got to have a justified, like, if somebody's going to give you a salary and they're going to give you, X margin, like, there's got to be some kind of give and take to that. And there's risk. And
there's a guy who I really like to follow. His name's Jeremy Miner. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Talks all the time about how, as a W-2 salesman, he was at the end of his career, he was making a couple million a year. And it's like, that's very possible in corporate America. It's very possible as a W-2 salesman. But there's a level of, I think, expertise that you have to just develop towards to get there.
Yeah, and he's probably on a nice compensation model where he was selling big deals. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's funny, like, one of the companies I own, Vanilla, it's $100 a month, you know what I mean? And it's like, you go do the math. How are they going to pay you a $5,000 commission when, it's like, how many months do you need to be paid, let alone run a business, software developers, all this stuff. Like, I'm just like, and it's just, there's an element of understanding what you're getting into and being okay with that. And I think a lot of door-to-door guys never tasted that because maybe they got recruited out of college, young age, and they're, like you said, pampered, like they've been skewed from like a normal just income. And I'm not saying you have to be normal. It's just, you've got to understand like the differences and what you got and be appreciative of what you got.
Well, it's got its pros too, right? It's like most days at 5 o'clock, I don't have to think about work anymore right now. I can go and be a father that I need to be for this time in my kid's life where they're, 3 and 5 years old and they need my energy a lot. As my kids get older, that's not the same, right? But so it's like you said, pros and cons, and just knowing where you're at and what reality is, not trying to live a different reality per se.
Yeah. So talk to me about Paykeeper. Kind of what are the main 3 value adds for a contractor that it does?
So I think the biggest thing, Paykeeper is an automated escrow software. And the biggest thing it does is it gets the contractor paid faster. The way it does that, so I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a solar customer and you want to pay cash for your system. Most solar companies, for their cash customers right now, it's some amount down, maybe a little bit more after permitting, and then the rest after install. Here's a new term once you're in B2B, AR, accounts receivable, right? It's like, what's your AR? It's all the money that you are set to be paid, but haven't been paid yet. And so let's say you've got 100 cash customers that they all owe you 20 grand after install. Well, that's 200 grand, $2 million, whatever the math is. It's like, that's all sitting in your AR that you either have to get the sales rep to go get that check, or your installer picks up the check or whatever. Someone has to grab that check to decrease your AR and get the cash in your bank account. Technically, you're owed the money, but what happens a lot of times in solar and roofing and other contracting work, it's like, okay, the installer stepped through my attic. He put a foot through my sheetrock, or he dropped the ladder on my bush. I'm emotional and mad as a homeowner, and I'm not paying you this money until you come fix this little thing. Where that little thing is, a $500 fix, a few $100 fix, but you're holding on to 20 grand.
Yeah.
Until I fix this thing. Okay, well, I don't just have someone ready to go. I'm busy. It's 2 weeks out before that my sub can come fix that sheetrock. Yeah. And now waiting 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get paid.
So common too. Anybody running a business, this should resonate. Like, and it's stuff that as a rep, you don't understand. Like I just had these landscapers come and do my landscaping, and I still haven't paid them. I got to pay them today, but they're done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'll pay you once you finish the trees and this and this. And I'm still out of town, so I got to get home and make sure that it's legit. So I just got home and now it's daylight, but they've been done for 3 days.
And that contractor hasn't gotten paid, right? And he's like,
they had to pay for rocks, they had to pay for sand, they had to pay for tree cutting, the dumpster, like all the stuff.
And on the other end, right? You're a homeowner, you're going to pay them, you know that, right? But a lot of times contractors will reject work because they don't think that person will pay.
They're nervous. Yeah. They're like, I don't know if he'll pay. He seems sketch. Like, and they've been screwed. Every contractor's been screwed out of some money. And
every contractor has been screwed out of money. And a lot of homeowners have been screwed as well by paying up front and then that contractor not doing what they said they're going to do.
I'm in that right now, building my effing building. I'm building a headquarters, and I'm like, he's just not doing it. Like, I'm like, how do I get him to do the work? I've paid him.
He already has the money, right? He's like, I got the money, I'm good.
Yeah.
So Paykeeper acts as that intermediary, like it's an escrow service that's automated in, as far as when it pays out. So what's nice is both sides win.
So explain, a lot of people don't know what escrow is. So explain that in dummy terms.
Okay, so an escrow is basically a bank account that holds both sides accountable to doing what they said they're going to do. So contractor says, I'll do this work for 20 grand. Homeowner says, okay, but I don't want to pay up front in case you don't do the work. So then escrow in the middle says, okay, give me the money, I'll hold it, verify that the contractor did what they said they're going to do, and then give it to the contractor. And so both sides win. The contractor doesn't do the work until the money's in escrow and they know that the money exists. And then they know that as long as they do what they said they're going to do, what's on the contract, they'll get paid that money.
So how do you approach a homeowner and convince them of this versus maybe their traditional way? You know, let's say this landscaper, this contractor that built my thing, he's like, well, how do I know you're going to pay us? What's the sales pitch to that? Do you kind of have some lingo there? Because I think it's re-educating how they're maybe used to dealing with contractors.
Yeah, so I talk to a lot of sales teams about how to maybe pitch Paykeeper, because it can put them a step ahead of their competitors in terms of our cash deal versus their cash deal, right? So as a salesperson to the homeowner using Paykeeper, I would say, hey, we use this service called Paykeeper where you put the money, you pay everything up front, but it's in escrow. So we're not getting paid unless we do what we say we're going to do. And it's safe. If we don't do what we say we were going to do, the money gets returned to you, no problem. And so that gives the homeowner the peace of mind of paying, especially solar with dealer fees going up, right? We've got really, really high dealer fees these days. And you can show a cash discount, right? Of maybe 20, 25, 30% even sometimes, or it's like, here's this huge cash discount. Here's Paykeeper. And we kind of show them it's way easier to pay that money and know that the job's getting done. To a contractor, you know, the benefit to them is you never put someone on your install schedule until they fund their escrow account. So you may not even have to buy all the parts, buy the materials until you know that the money is there for the job. And you especially don't go install them until they fund their escrow account.
Yes. No, and I think it creates integrity within contracting world. Yeah, because I would have paid them up front. Like, I'm like, it's like, put your guys' self, and a lot of reps don't own homes and haven't done $20,000 projects. Like, you know, it's one of those things though, like the contractor has to buy materials and they have to do the work and they have to pay their contract. Like, so, you know, it's just like, there's an element of here where who's fronting the bill. And a lot of times there is a lot of risk there. And I just think if you could ease the customer's mind through security of like, hey, let's pay it now, but it won't go to it won't go to us. And understanding, like having them understand, like, versus, hey, don't pay anything until the work's done. Then you're like, well, that's not fair to us. Like, there's no guarantee there. You know what I mean? It's like, let's create win-win. And I think in any business, when you can show what's in it for me, what's in it for the homeowner, and you can say, look at the win-win here, that's when it creates loyalty and trust. When it seems so one-sided, when it's like, what do you mean you do this all for no money down and nothing? And if I cancel at any time, you're just okay with that? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's too good to be true. Like, what's the catch? Like, when am I going to get bit? Like, you're overselling. But if you can say, pull back, here's how this all works. Here's where you're protected. I want to be fully transparent. That's where I think Paykeeper could really bring validity to your sale as a sales rep.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, we're the escrow accounts are FDIC insured. We are a licensed escrow agent in all 50 states, and it's a legit escrow service. And we've added this software element to where we've kind of married the banking and compliance with this automated software tool into a service that makes it a really easy win-win as far as homeowners really easily funding their accounts. It's very similar to like a Venmo situation. It kind of feels like Venmo or Zelle. And then the contractor, you know, being able to see all of their projects and move them forward and get paid on them.
That's awesome. So guys, Paykeeper will be at Door to Door Con. I mean, Jacob, you've been to Door to Door Con. What would you tell any business owner looking or rep looking to go to Door to Door Con? I mean, you've been.
Yeah, no, I still remember Jordan Belfort was at Door to Door Con that I went to, and even the other speakers that you had, that was one of the most impactful events I'd ever been to as a sales rep. What you feel coming out of there is like, I can sell anybody, I can do anything. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you put on, and I'm really excited to go there now as a vendor.
Oh, that's cool. I think a lot of people, they don't realize like the impact that 3 days or 2 days can have. And so if you're looking to, guys, learn more about Paykeeper, go to paykeeper.com, hit up Jacob, come to Door to Door Con, see their booth, come hang out with us. A lot of people are going to be there. And Jacob, thanks so much for being on the show, man. This is super awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Okay, you guys are awesome. Much love. We'll see you guys on the next episode, and we'll see you guys in January.